In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make Mary dolls, and I'm going to be specifically making Our Lady of Lourdes and Our Lady of Guadalupe. However, do note that Our Lady of Fatima is going to be extremely similar to both of these patterns. If you notice, they're both going to have the exact same pattern for the mantle, it's just different coloring. They both have the exact same pattern for the belt, just different coloring. And then they have some extra additions, like I have Our Lady of Guadalupe in her prayer position, and I've got Our Lady of Lourdes. I gave her little yellow roses to put on her feet. There's also other things that you could possibly add that I talk about at the end of the video. If you're wanting to add like a baby Jesus or something of that sort, you can as well. But let's get started. Oh, before you start, you should already have the basic doll. So this would be the head, body, and arms. So it should look something like this, but with the coloring that you're wanting to use. So I've got that other video placed as part 1 in my YouTube channel. Make sure to check that one out first. And then this video will show you all the additions to add to turn that doll into Mary. All right, so for this part 2, the first thing we're going to work on is the mantle. So this is a picture of an Our Lady of Guadalupe, and you can see her beautiful blue mantle here. Now, I am also making this one to be Our Lady of Lourdes, and I kind of want to show you just how it would work. So we're going to make it like this. Obviously, this is going to depend on what Marian Apparition color you're doing. If you're doing Our Lady of Fatima, you might want to make it yellow at the very start, or gold colored at the very start, and then switch to white, which is actually similar to what I'm going to be doing with Our Lady of Guadalupe. So you need a 4mm hook, you do need scissors, and you will need that needle. So for Our Lady of Guadalupe, or for Our Lady of Fatima, we're going to start with this yellow yarn. However, if you're doing Our Lady of Lourdes, you're just going to do white yarn. But it's going to be the exact same pattern. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to chain 49. And I'm actually going to pause because that'll take a little bit to do. And now I have this wonderful chain of 49. Now this is going to be the very first portion of her mantle, very front, and then we're going to move front to back. So next, I'm going to do a single crochet all the way across. I'm going to skip the first 2 stitches, and then in the 3rd stitch do a single crochet, and then I'm going to do a single crochet all the way down. And again, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. So now I've got this wonderful single crochet all the way across. And now I'm going to flip over. Since I'm doing Our Lady of Guadalupe, I'm going to go into the blue, green, teal section of her mantle. If you're doing an Our Lady of Fatima, this would be the time to switch over to white. And if you're doing Our Lady of Lourdes, you can just stay with white. But for right now, I'm using a blue. I know some people use green, some people use teal. I'm going to switch over my colors here. And then I'm going to turn. Now for Our Lady of Guadalupe, as you might already know, she has stars all over. I'm going to try to add in those stars as I'm going through, so I'm actually going to leave the yellow yarn and try to continue to use it throughout. However, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you just want to stick to all blue or all green, feel free to do that as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a double crochet for 23 stitches. Across. I'm going to go and pause the video. Alright, now I have 23 double crochet stitches in blue. And now I'm going to do is I'm going to put an increase, but it's going to be 3 increases. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets into this next stitch. And then we're going to continue on, and you should have 23 more double crochets across. So then I'm going to finish that out, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. All right, so now I finished all the way across. So you can see this is how it's going to be placed on her. So it kind of can curve around her and then go out. Now we're going to do 2 rows of double crochet. I'm going to be going back and forth between yellow and blue so I can kind of start creating a little bit of a star pattern for every other row. But you do not have to do that if you don't want to, but you're just going to be doing 2 rows of double crochet all the way across, and I'll meet you after you're finished with those 2 new rows. All right, and this is what it should look like now that I have 2 more rows. So we should have 3 rows of double crochet and a single stitch as well. This is also what I mean by going back and forth. If you're trying to do an Our Lady of Guadalupe and you'd like to have stars, I did 2 blue stitches, 1 yellow, 2 blue, 1 yellow, and doing it every other row. But you can choose not to do that or choose to do that, whatever works best for you. All right, now we're going to start working on some decreases. So as you can see, this part can kind of start coming all together. So what you're going to do is you're going to double crochet 21 stitches. So you're going to take it and turn and double crochet 21 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. All right, so now I have 21. And I'm going to go over here, I'm going to double crochet, and I'm going to do a decrease, double crochet into the next 2 stitches. I'm going to pull through. Actually, I'm going to switch my colors up for this one. Pull through. And now we're going to do a decrease, but with 3. So you're going to do yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, and then yarn over again. Then yarn over, insert hook, yarn over again. And then one more time, yarn over, insert hook, pull through, and yarn over again. So now I have 3. And now I'm going to pull straight through. So I'm using this as a star. I'm going to pull over to my blue. And now I'm going to do one more decrease. So yarn in, over, and I'm going to pull through both of them. So again, you're going to have a decrease of 2 on either side and a decrease of 3 right in the middle. And then you're going to continue on just as you were for the rest of it. You're going to go just double crochet for the rest of this. And you should have 21 double crochets. And now, as you can see for our video, so we're already creating a nice mantle for her that's going to kind of fit over her head, quite snug. Fit around. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue on. You're going to double crochet all the way until you get to your 3 decreases that you did in the middle. And then we're going to do a decrease to combine all 3 of those. So you're going to decrease all the way to that middle section. And just double crochet all the way across. Now go ahead and pause the video. Once you get to the middle, I'll show you what to do. All right, so now I've gone to the middle. This is where I had the decrease 2, the decrease with 3, and the decrease with another 2. And so now I'm going to do a decrease of 3. So yarn over, in, pull through, yarn over again. Doing this 3 times. And then you pull straight through. And then you're going to continue to decrease all the way down. And I'll show you what to do once you get to the end of the row. Alright, so now should be to here. See, there's a big, nice little bump for her head. So now we're going to turn. You're going to do 18 double crochets. And go ahead and pause the video and I'll show you what to do after you do 18 double crochets. Alright, so I've done 18 double crochets. You can kind of see where the center is of everything, because I use that yellow. So I'm going to do a decrease with 2 double crochet, decrease, hit again, I'm going to pull through. Actually, I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to put a star right down the middle. And then we're going to do a decrease of 3. And then I'm going to pull through again, pull through the other color. And then we're going to do a decrease of 2. And pull through. And then I'm going to continue to do double crochets for the rest of the mantle. Alright, and I'll let you know what we do at the end of this round. Alright, now we should have this. So we're almost done. We're going to do one more row. You're going to crochet 16 across. So single, again, we're going to be using double crochet. If you notice, we've been using double crochet this entire time other than the very first row. We're going to go ahead and do double crochet all the way across for 16 double crochets. And you should end pretty close to the middle, and I'll talk to you about where you're at there. So go ahead and pause the video. Alright, now you can see where the middle is. So I'm going to do these 2. I'm going to do a decrease double crochet. Pull through. And then I'm going to do the 3 decrease with all 3 stitches instead of just 2. And then I'm going to pull through. And then I'm going to do one more decrease of just 2 stitches. Now I'm going to finish it off with all double crochets. And once you get to the end, I'll show you what to do. Alright, now once you're finished, loop over, and then you're going to cut a longer piece because you're going to be sewing this together and then sewing it onto her head. So take your needle and thread it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 sides, line them up, and then sew them across. I like to do kind of like a whip stitch. You might have another opinion of what you'd prefer to do, but whatever you'd prefer to do, go ahead and do it. And we're going to sew all the way across. Go ahead and pause your video. Alright, now I'm pretty much finished. Now what I'm going to do, however, is for Our Lady of Guadalupe, I'm going to give her a yellow on the bottom as well. That'll also help me hide all of these ends that I have tied off at the bottom from where I was changing colors. For Our Lady of Lourdes, it's just all white, so nothing needs to be changed. However, if you are doing Our Lady of Fatima, you might want to also do the same yellow across the bottom. If you're doing Our Lady of Lourdes and you want to do it across the bottom with white, just to give it some cleanliness, feel free to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to insert my hook, and then I'm just going to do half double crochets all the way across. I do chain 1, and then do a half double crochet. And I'm going to continue that around, all the way around. All right, so I've done half double crochets kind of just all the way across. And then at the end, chain 1. I would cut off a large piece because again, we're going to be sewing this on and it'll make life a lot easier when we have a bit extra yarn to help us. So there's our mantle. And so now we're going to be adding hair and sewing on the mantle. Now actually what I want to do before we start working on hair and sewing it in, I do want to go ahead and work on the belts. So for Our Lady Guadalupe, she's got a black belt. And for Our Lady of Lourdes, she'll have a blue belt. So all you're going to do is you're going to take whatever color yarn, whichever doll you're working on. Our Lady of Fatima has a gold belt, so you'll be using gold for her belt. And you're going to make as many chains as needed. You may have cinched in the waist as much as I did for these dolls. You might have not, and if you chose not to, then it might be a bit further. You might have to do a little bit of a longer chain, but you're going to do a chain, so it fits all the way around, and then has some on the sides because you can see hers kind of sticks out. So that's perfect. Gonna make 2 more, and then cut a long piece to be able to sew it on. Now to sew on either belt, what you'll do is you'll kind of follow the chain up slightly. I'm just going to go up 2 stitches. And you put it on her and you decide which side do you want the front to be. Do I want this side? That side? Doesn't really matter. I'll go and pick this side. Put the belt around her. Now depending on where you're positioning the belt, you want the belt to be right in the middle or off to the side. And it looks like for Our Lady Guadalupe and Our Lady of Lourdes, it's right in the middle. So now I'm going to do is where those 2 meet, stick my needle right in and put it all the way through. Now what I'm going to do is just sew it on really tight, best I can, all the way around. I always want to make sure that none of this is ever going to be a choking hazard or can't pull off. And kids can be very strong. Notice too, while her waist might have looked a little bit extreme earlier with the belt, it actually doesn't look too bad. And just make sure any part that feels a little loose, like a little finger could get through it and pull it off, go ahead and sew that. And just keep sewing all the way around. And once you're done, you will have a completed belt. And you can also tie off all the ends, including this one, and you'll be done. All right, now we have belt. It's got 2 kind of little things that can be pulled, but not bad, all the way around. Now for hair, this is what I normally do. So I have kind of the bangs that you can kind of see out front, a little bit of hair in front, and then can make it down. Now, the nice part about this is that her mantle is going to cover the majority of her head. And this is going to be true for the Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Fatima, and Our Lady of Guadalupe. The mantle is going to cover it. So all I do is I put on a little bit in front just to kind of give her some bangs, some framing around her face, and then go around. And all I'm doing is kind of tying those off. And then afterwards, you can take your needle and open these back up to have more kind of textured hair. So you want to kind of like brush through all of this, and I'll give her some nice hair, and then afterwards I'll cut it all so it's all the same length across. And then after that, you can sew on the mantle, and I normally sew right underneath where I have these knots for her hair. That way it just kind of gives some extra security to her hair, make sure no one can pull out the hair. You can also use this piece at the top. You can either just sew in the ends, you can use it to tie off something, whatever helps you best. There's also other ways to create hair. I do encourage you to check out other videos because there's a lot of other videos out there that have other great ideas on how to put hair on crocheted dolls. This is just the way that I personally do it. Alright, so now that I've finished off the hair, I went ahead and cut it. It's mostly all the same length. I'm going to go ahead and put on her mantle, and then I'm going to sew it in. I'm going to sew specifically this part around her face on the top, and then once I have kind of this knot for the hair, I'm going to sew right underneath that all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so now we have her mantle, we have her belt. Now I'm going to put her hands in this prayer position, as many of these same Marian Apparitions are. So I'm actually going to be able to use all of these pieces that I left and be able to sew her hands together, and then not only sew them together, but also sew them to her chest. Also, I did notice, I forgot to say this, I did sew this in the very back as well, just so it can't be ripped off very easily, but it still can be played with and moved around. So next is just sewing in her hands, and then also you can sew her eyes. I know my eyes are not the best, but I'll show you how to do them as well. I'll show you what they look like. I'm also going to be sewing in the arms so that they stay kind of good. And don't forget, we need to sew in the arms to the body. So if you haven't already done that, you can see over here it's all been sewn around. Basically just sewed across and across and across until I couldn't see any more white around the armpit. And I'm going to do that as well over here. And then make sure that the arm is also stable so we can keep her in that beautiful little position. Alright, now another thing that is optional if you're doing Our Lady of Lourdes. So she has 2 yellow roses on each feet. So I normally leave one on that side, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So first thing you do is you chain 10. Then you're going to roll it up. And then take what's on the outside, and we're just going to sew all around on the sides, going straight through so that it holds. This isn't a necessary step if you don't have yellow, you don't want to do this, you don't have to. I would say that make sure that you are really sewing it on extra tight, because it's very easy for something this small to kind of pop off. So I'm going to take the smaller end that I have, and I'm going to kind of sew it in. One portion so I can tie that off later. And now I'm just going to be sewing on my rows. All right, I'm going to go and pause the video. After you've sewed it on well, and it's really tight, you can't pull it off, I'm going to tie off these two ends. And then I'm going to sew over and I'm going to tie it off at the bottom as well. And then I'm just going to hide all of my ends. All right, and then now we should add in her face. So this is kind of what I normally do. It's a really simple, easy stitch that I can do with just black yarn. But there are a lot of other eyes, nose, mouths that you can do if you want to look those up, find other videos. There's a lot of great artists out there that do really amazing work. But for me, what I do is I look for where I want to put the bottom part of her eye. I pull the yarn through near where her hair is so I can hide it a bit easier. I go to the next row up, pull underneath that stitch, and then I'm going to go through again. And then I go about to the other side. Again, the bottom of this U V-shaped. And then I'm going to go around that stitch. And then through again. And then I'm going to go right over back to where I had the black yarn over here. Try to put it in the same stitch. And then I will cut off and hide in my ends. All right, now we finished our dolls. Now, you might want to add some extra things. You could put wire in her arms if you are giving it to a child that might want to position them or move them around. You could also add little decade rosaries. There's a bunch of different patterns for those, and you can make even a matching decade rosary to give to the doll if you know that the choking hazard is not an issue. And also I've got a pattern on how to make a little baby Jesus that matches, the arms would be able to hold. You could sew that in if there's a choking hazard concern, or you could choose to not sew it in and put wire in the arms, and the child can actually lay Jesus in Mary's arms. And that pattern for the baby Jesus that I have, it's about that big, is in my MTA, my Mother Tries Admirable video. So go check that out if you're interested in adding those kinds of additions. You can obviously do this with a lot of different Marian apparitions. You can do it with a lot of just different images of Mary. And it's a really neat pattern. I feel like it's easy to be applicable and teach your child more about Mary. So I hope you enjoy, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions.